My name is Jarlentji, and in this video I want to share a bit of my story and my relationship with anxiety. It's kinda ironic that this is the 5th version I shot of this video. During editing I just kept on seeing things that could be explained better. So here we are at the 6th version that hopefully makes it to the internet. Now I've always struggled with anxiety. When I was a kid I was anxious already. I remember having a very clear understanding of how public perception matters to people. So I always wanted to come across as kind and as best as possible. I'm half Asian, and I think it's an Asian thing to be really extremely polite, sometimes almost to the point where it becomes a defensive politeness that creates this distance. Now your personality is X the amount of your genes and X the amount of your environment and what you've been exposed to. My mom is Asian, and now she's very sweet and caring, and I've learned that from her, but I think I inherited this anxious behavior from her also. I remember that whenever I would attempt to do something, I would always get asked these fearful, judgmental questions that eventually made me question myself even more than I already did naturally. And I have a big family with aunties that like to ask similar questions, which was also pressuring. Those questions all came from the idea that what other people think about you is important. That it is apparently so defining that you should adapt yourself for other people when you deviate the norm, to be accepted. Now I'm not blaming my family's behavior for making me anxious because, like I said, it's also my genes that play a part. And my other cousins, for example, don't struggle with anxiety as much as me. The duality of my upbringing is that I also grew up with a father who is an artist. He'd exposed me to all kinds of art and was a lot more expressive than my mom. So my personality is really split in two. On one hand, I'm not into conventionalities at all, and I like things and people that go against the grain. But on the other hand, I want people to accept me, think I'm nice and a good person, which makes me conform to those ideas. So while the anxiety grew inside of me as I got older, there also started to develop a love for expressing myself free through art. Free will or not, we make choices in life that we eventually must accept to find peace. Impulsive actions, wrong places at the wrong times, bad relationships, those are all part of my story. I never really dealt with my anxiety in my teenage years, and bad decision making made it perform worse as I got older. After getting out of a really bad relationship, my anxiety was at a peak. Life slapped me in the face and I knew I couldn't avoid doing the real work on myself, by myself any longer. I say that for a whole year I pretty much lived in solitude, which I mostly do anyways. During this time, I stumbled upon this YouTube channel called MedCircle that has interviews with psychologists and psychiatrists. One doctor on there really spoke to me. Her name is Dr. Ramani. Now on their website, she has a series about anxiety, and it was very helpful to watch. I also watched a lot of other videos on YouTube about anxiety and read many articles online. I wish I could recommend any books to you guys, but to be honest, I oddly enough have not read any particular book on this subject, but I did just started reading this book called Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear. That should be interesting. However, here is a list of some books about anxiety that after doing some research seem to be worth reading. So after having educated myself, I had better information to help me reflect on my personality. I had to work through many layers, from past experiences to emotional trauma to identity issues. And as time passed by, I was able to get to a point where I felt a lot more connected to myself. But then, I got really into becoming the best version of myself. Some factors that I like about this period of my life is that I really started to improve on my productivity. I developed a lot in my music. My goals became more concrete. But during that time, I also became too radical in my principles. They were ethically and morally of a standard too high, and with those principles came a lot of expectations, not only of myself, but also of the world around me. This eventually made my worldview very pessimistic. At a certain point, I couldn't handle the pressure I was putting on myself and the world anymore. So, a new way of thinking arose, which is how I currently still view things. The older I get, the more I start to see the absurdity of life and start to realize that humanity at its core is not necessarily good. Not saying it's bad either, it just helped me a lot to understand that as humans we just have our shortcomings. I really used to believe that one would be able to get rid of all their bad and maybe even toxic traits. To me now, that is an illusion. Don't get me wrong, I think we can do a lot with self-reflection, therapy, and whatever may help. But no human is able to become perfect. Everybody in life faces some degree of hardship that damages them. And again, our genes play a part too. Nonetheless, I still believe that we should always strive for getting better by aiming for the best. Just keeping in mind along the way that we have our limitations will make us suffer a lot less. This whole realization has contributed to me being where I am now, where I dare to make this video and share such a personal story, which is what I've wanted to do for a long time. The funny thing is that after all the growth I've been through, I still am stuck with this bit of anxiety inside of me. That part that still tells me I shouldn't express myself too much and stay modest, that I shouldn't even make this video because it may put me in a vulnerable position, or that I shouldn't release my music. Those and 1,000 other thoughts are deeply rooted habits. But I am happy and even proud to say that I experience them a lot less than I used to. Now we're almost at the end of this video, and I want to share a quote with you. Artists are people driven by the tension between the desire to communicate and the desire to hide. I think a lot of artists may relate to this. I know I totally can. I think I will always struggle with having this inner battle of creating something that is really personal and then debating whether to share it with the world or not, and if people will understand it or if they will think it's good enough for them. But I realize that I can argue and philosophize about something as long as I want. It unfortunately doesn't erase my anxiety. I mean, I really tried that by now. I guess the only way to get over my fears really is by facing them. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. Why do some of these generic life quotes turn out to be actual wisdom sometimes? This video is a testimony to myself. I don't want to die one day and feel like I didn't do everything I wanted to do because of this stupid fear. I want to be more free mentally and just be myself really. So hopefully expressing myself to the world without any barriers will help me get there. Last quote. You need to resign yourself to the awkwardness of life. Only if you find peace within yourself will you find true connection with others. Thank you for watching. I'll be posting many more videos, so you should subscribe if you wanna see more.